You're listening to the Homeownership podcast by Momentum Realty, real estate talk for buying, selling, and owning property.
Hey guys, Sean Patrick Maloney here, broker owner of Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. Welcome to episode 43, Pets and Real Estate. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. As a real estate agent, pretty much 80-90% of the time in my area, people I'm meeting with are actually having pets. The statistic in the United States is that 67% of people own pets, but locally here in Massachusetts, it seems like everybody has a dog or a cat. So we deal with a lot of questions and we deal with a lot of people on both the buying and selling side that want to know how to be successful in finding the right home or how to sell their home where they have pets currently living. So we're going to go over the buying, the selling, and also after living with pets and just the ins and outs of home ownership with pets. So let's get started. We'll start by talking about buying. When you're going to buy a home and you're thinking about having pets, one of the things you want to think about is having space for those pets. A lot of times, larger dogs will call for maybe yard space or the ability to get out there and walk that pet on a leash. So you want to know locally, are you allowed to walk your pets outside? What kind of requirements do they have? Do they have to be registered with the town? Do they have to be on the leash or can they be let out? Because ultimately, if you can't go out on the street with them, you may have to have a bigger yard space. Or if they're going to be indoors all the time and only going for walks, you might need to have a little bit more square footage inside the home in order to let the pet have enough space that it can be walking about. It can be really cramped if you're in a very small condo or apartment style home where the pet's basically laying on the floor where you need to walk. So thinking about that is an important part, as well as thinking about the space itself, whether it be for cats or dogs or other pets. You may think, okay, I don't have a space where I could put my large 300-gallon fish tank because it takes up as much space as a TV would on the wall, and we have lots of doors and window openings. These things may seem kind of petty right now, but when you buy the home, it's yours for good, and if you don't think about them in advance, you may end up in the wrong home for what you're looking to do. And then you want to think about if it isn't the exact home that you need it to be, how much would it cost to alter it into a way that would work out? Say, for instance, we were talking about the fish tank there. Could you get rid of a window? How much would it cost to close out a window and have more wall space for that large fish tank that you want to have? These things, again, they may seem simple, but the reality is if you love your pets as much as the people that I see every day, you're going to want to do anything and everything to keep them around you. Buying the right place in the first place is a really important thing. Another thing you need to make sure is if you're buying into a condo or any sort of homeowners association, that you take a moment to take a look at the rules. Sometimes people don't really think about these things, but if you're not owning single family where you set your own rules for your own property other than town laws, you're going to end up in a situation where some condos may allow one dog, they may allow two dogs, they may allow two total pets. You want to look at it. How do they define it? What is a pet? Is a fish considered a pet? Is a dog considered a pet? Is there a weight restriction on the dogs? Is there a breed restriction on the dogs? All these things are fairly common. The only time that people seem to be able to get around them is when people have true service animals, but then that takes having the paperwork to have a service pet, and it's really not considered a pet at that point. It's more similar, I guess you'd say, maybe to comparing it to someone's wheelchair. It's a medical device versus being an animal at that point, so there are ways around it for that. But the majority of us who are just having them for pets have to be very careful when it comes to these condo rules and regulations and getting them into the right place so that there isn't an issue. And if you think you're just going to get in there and then you're going to lodge yourself in there, you can run into a lot of problems, including fines, and eventually they can actually kick you out through foreclosure and things like that. So just be careful when looking at condos that you make sure you look at those up front, because sometimes you fall in love and then find out it can't be what you want it to be. Some other things to think about when you're buying would be like, are there dog parks close? Is there places that have pet supplies close to nearby? Is there a good pet groomer? Is there a good little pet community? Sometimes you can join Facebook groups about pet walking and find different people who have the same interests as you, and you can get into those groups and meet new people in your local community. And then if you're moving into an area, is it pet friendly? Is leaving your dog out on your back patio on the 13th story of a building and letting it park all day, is that going to make good friendships with neighbors, or is that going to be, yes, it's allowed, but it's kind of annoying type thing? So just thinking about that can keep your friendships up. And then if you are going into the exotic pet category where you're getting a big cat or some of these other things like flying squirrels and different reptiles and amphibians, you want to make sure you just check out the exotic laws per state. Massachusetts is pretty strict. We don't have too many exotic pets, and if you do, you actually have to get a special license. But remember, as you move, that's a time where you're vulnerable, that somebody could report that you have certain things. So if you don't have the proper permits in place and you move into a new neighborhood and one of your neighbors freaks out because you have one of these exotic pets and calls the police or calls the local MSPCA or any other thing like that, are you prepared when they show up to show the proper paperwork? Because again, as you move, you're changing your environment, you're changing the people that know you, and somebody might see and say something. When selling a home with pets, this is a common one to make mistakes. And what I mean by that is often people want to hide that they had pets. They are so concerned that nobody likes dog smell, or nobody likes, torn up yards from dogs, or nobody likes a house that has trim work that's been scratched by a cat, or all these different things that can actually happen when you have pets. I think it's important to learn more how to sell a home that has had pets and which ones you need to deal with and which ones you don't. Obviously, smells is high on the list of to deal with, but sometimes it's just impossible. You've had dogs in the home so long and so many dogs that it's really hard to get the dog smell out of the home. So when we have situations like that, it's more important that we write the description for online, letting people know that this is a dog home. I just sold one recently. It's still currently in the works, but the listing read that it was a dog home, like that. Not only did it have a great backyard for dogs, but it had an automatic dog door to the outside and had plenty of space for all your fur babies. The reason we put that in that way was we knew that the house was definitely in need of somebody that loved dogs, that the backyard had been fenced off and it wasn't perfect grass like you would go play baseball or soccer or something like that on. It was more just a great spot for dogs to go out there and have fun and be able to run around. And then again, the house was equipped with a dog door that got them right into the house. So instead of my client having to take the dog door off, have it closed, refix the lawn, get grass in, and then just totally either shampoo the entire place or put in new carpets, they were able to sell it to somebody else that was actually happy to take it off their hands because they have dogs and their dogs are going to do the same thing. So it worked out perfectly for them. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes when you're trying to fix certain things, you may not need to fix them as much as to find the correct buyer. There's a buyer out there for each and every home, depending on exactly what they're looking for versus trying to sell it to somebody who wouldn't be a good fit for that. And then in a few weeks or whatever, when you go to home inspection or other things like that, then the problems come up because they're trying to buy something that is not exactly what they want. When it comes to showings and having pets in the home, cats tend to be fine. A lot of times they're skittish and they kind of hide. As long as they're not one that books it for the door and tries to take off out into the neighborhood, you can leave them in the house usually and just ask people, maybe put a note on one of the doors saying, please keep this door shut, or put the pet in a pet carrier, that type of thing. Dogs, on the other hand, not everyone likes dogs. Cats, they stay away from you, but dogs like to come say hello, or they like to bark, and sometimes it can go horrible if the person does not like pets and, they just want to leave because the dog's barking at them. So sometimes having a pet walker or a pet sitter or getting the dog out to a friend and family house just to get it out of the way for the showing can be good. The other thing is a dog that's barking in the cage. It can kind of seem cruel that you left it there, especially if they're a person that's big up on dogs and that they love dogs so much and they would never put their dog in a kennel. I don't have any problem with kenneling dogs and everything, but some people that are very animal rights activist style people get a little offended when you put a dog in a crate. So just think about that, and if it's a big challenge because you have lots of dogs or lots of pets, sometimes group open houses or group showings can work best. I'm not a big fan of always obligating them to group open houses or group showings, but you can usually get away with doing the first 1 to 3 weeks worth of them just being group open versus in group showings. In the long run, if you're not selling the home through these group open houses and group showings, I would suggest you go back out to the normal. You can book a showing whenever you want within 12 or 24 hours, whatever your time schedule is. But at first, you can start with those group open houses. Sometimes having a group open house actually can help out in the fact that people feel competitive with each other because they're standing shoulder to shoulder at the same open house, and that can maybe push things along a little bit faster. If you're selling in a condo and you're going to be selling and the new people have pets, you want to make sure that you're fluid with the condo association, that you're talking with them the whole time, because as a seller, I know it's not your job to buy the home, but it is your job to sell the home. And the reality of it is, if the person goes to buy the home and then they get denied later on in the future, you're the one that needs to go back on the market. So making sure that they're checking the condo rules and regs and making sure that they have pets that fall within the allowances of what your place can do can save you from having a disaster later on in the transaction when you find out that they actually can't finish because they thought that they could sneak pets in and things like that. So just keep that in mind. And then you also want to think when you're selling the house, can it be used for horses? This is a question that a lot of people undervalue. Here in southeastern Massachusetts, it's actually pretty common to have horses. Across the country, there's 1.6 million horse owners, owning about 7.6 million horses. And the reality of owning a horse is it's actually quite expensive. And one of the most expensive parts of owning a horse can be to house it somewhere, to put it up and have it taken care of at a barn. If you can move that barn to your house, you can save anywhere between $600 on the low end, all the way up to multiple thousands of dollars a month by having the horse on the property. So if you're looking at it on an aspect of lending money for a home loan, we typically say somewhere between $600 and $800 per month per every $100,000 borrowed. So if you say that the person saved around $2,400, that means they can spend about $300,000 more to buy that home. So as you can see, the ability to house a horse can drastically increase the price value of the home in the fact that find the right person that has a horse that wants to house their horse at home, and they're willing to pay the money that it takes to have that house, because then they can have the horse at home and save money and also have their horse right there so they can ride whenever they want. So you can check in with Town Hall on that one. Most of the towns around here allow it after a certain acreage, and they allow a certain number of horses per property. Won't go over the exacts because it does change town to town, but reaching out to the town and finding out if you can have horses can be a great thing to add to a listing. There's even equestrian real estate agents that specialize in it, so if you're working to sell your home, you can have horses. It's not a bad idea to send those people the listing, because chances are they may have a buyer that's looking in your town for a place to put their horses. So now let's talk about living with pets. So we've talked about buying a house, selling a house. Now let's talk a little bit about after you have bought the house or after you've sold and moved to your new house, living with the pets inside the home. One thing that I see often now is customization of homes. I talked to you about the automatic dog door that one of the homes had. We actually had a couple buy a house that within the house they had a dog house that was underneath the staircase. It was a small place where there was a pet bed and everything, and they were able to have their dog have a place in the house that it was its own. It's really cute, and a lot of people love that picture. When we shared that one online, that was one of our most liked and shared photos that we've ever posted. But remember, when customizing a home, that you want to customize it in a way for the pets that you can actually see a way back out if it's going to be a bother in the future to sell it. That one didn't happen to be, but sometimes people will make modifications. Maybe you have a dog that likes to jump up, so you put something in the way so it doesn't, ruin the sliding glass window or things like that. When you're doing those, don't just drill into the trim work. Make sure you think about, how's it going to come back down? When I'm adding these little dog fences to different rooms, am I drilling into the drywall, or am I able to make it to a situation where it just kind of uses pressure to hold itself up, so that way when I take it down, I don't have to fix all these holes in the walls and everything? Because sometimes when you do go to sell the house after living there, you may sell to a non-pet person. Then you need to think about, do you want to add any fence, or would dog wire work? I'm a big fan of the underground dog fences, the wire one. I know they work great. I know some people are very scared of them, that the dog's just going to run away, but I've seen a lot of success with them. I used to own a landscape company and see them everywhere. Adding regular fence is quite a bit more money, but at the end of the day, if you add the regular fence, you may see a little more appreciation of value in the fact that the next people may have a dog or may have children and want that fenced-in yard, or some people just cosmetically, they like the look of a fence. So fencing is nice, but it is rather expensive. When you are going to do fencing, I recommend getting multiple bids because it is an industry where the difference between one company and another company can greatly vary. The other thing is thinking about what time of the year you're ordering fence. If you're ordering fence now, you're going to get a great deal on it because not many people are ordering fences in the fall. But if you're ordering fences during the springtime or midsummer, you may actually pay a little more because their installers are out and busy. So just keep that in mind when you're scheduling it. You can save yourself a little money by doing it during the off time. When you're moving into a neighborhood, you're going to live there for a while. I mentioned it earlier, but go over it a little further. Facebook groups are great. Also, meetups are great. These are places where you can go and look into people that have similar interests and similar hobbies to what you do. Some of them may be pet owners, and you can find pet owners in your area that maybe want to go for a group dog walk, or maybe want to meet at a certain dog park or cat park, or I know it sounds funny, cat park, but I've actually seen them on the internet now. I was on Groupon the other day, and there was a coupon for cats and coffee, and you went to a coffee shop that was cat friendly, and you let the cats play while you drink coffee. So there are these types of groups out there. You just got to get out there and look for them. And I know everyone always is giving people with dogs ideas of places to go, so I figured I'd throw that one in there, that those do exist. Another thing you can find through the groups as well as through networking with people is who's the good local dog groomers, where's the nice place to go get dog treats, dog food, all the different things like that. Everybody has a difference in opinion on where the best places to go is, but the best way to find out for yourself is to actually network with other people that have similar interests to you. You also want to make sure that you speak to your insurance company. When you have a pet on the property, you want to make sure you're properly insured for those pets. Certain breeds of dogs, certain types of animals have a tendency to maybe get aggressive with humans and different things like that. So you want to make sure that if perchance that your sweet little fur baby decides to bite somebody, that you are actually covered. I can speak personally. My brother's dog bit somebody, and he actually was lucky that he had the correct insurance because the person needed a little bit of medical work, and it did end up going to court, and he was able to not lose anything, but he did have to have an insurance claim during it. And if he wasn't properly insured, he would have been in big trouble because he would have had to pay the bills out of pocket. So you do want to make sure that you are properly covered. And like I said, even though you love your little fur baby and you think it's the best thing ever and that it won't ever touch anybody, the reality is my little brother thought the same thing about his dog until it actually happened. So you just want to make sure you're properly protected. When thinking about buying a property or selling a property or living in a property with pets, it's important to work with real estate professionals that know what they're doing and know how to work with pets and work with animals. As a person who went to agricultural high school, as well as a person who's a pet enthusiast, I'm happy to work with anybody in real estate in getting the job done correctly, whether it be letting a dog out to the backyard, picking up a cat and putting it in a travel carrier. We're pet friendly at Movementum Realty. All my agents are happy to help out with all your real estate needs involving pets. If you're looking for a great agent to help you figure out exactly the next steps to buying, selling, or just living in your home best with pets for future sales, feel free to reach out to us. We'll set you up with a great agent. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the podcast, feel free to reach out to me directly through PM, DM, email, whatever works best. Please make sure to follow the podcast, and we look forward to talking to you next week.